Hi everyone, it's Stephanie here and welcome to Summer School 2018. In today's lesson, we are going to be taking a look at primary colors and ways that you can use them on your card. The main card I want to focus on is the first one here where we're going to create a scene. I just want to create a scene to show you that you can use just primary colors on your entire scene and you can easily color it and make everything look cohesive and not kind of have to stress about the different colors that you're going to use in the design. Now I am going to use browns and some skin color on her hair and her skin, but aside from that, we are going to stick to the three primary colors, which are red, blue, and yellow. Now the great thing about using Copic markers or any type of other coloring medium to achieve your primary colors is that you can kind of pick the shades that appeal to you in those three different colors. So truth be told, I am not actually a fan of primary colors. It's not something I typically use in my designs. I'm not really sure if it's that I'm not a huge fan of the color yellow, or I typically don't like the bright blue associated with primary colors. But I find that because I'm able to kind of change it up and use the hue of the color that I prefer, that I actually really liked this final card and I loved how these primary colors look together. So just by kind of experimenting with the different shades of color, you're able to actually end up with a design that you like. So I'm just going to go ahead and do all of the coloring on this image here. And I do have it sped up. I'm just doing some basic coloring here. But what I'm doing is I did her hair and her skin first, and now I'm going to go in with my primary colors. So for the blues, I decided to go with more muted blues. I don't really like the look of that really royal blue. So I decided to go with these ones, which kind of remind me of Blue Jean. And I'm going to color in all of the areas on this image that I want to be in this blue color. So for my Copic coloring, I like to generally use 3 shades of color, and I'm going to go in with my lightest first and fully saturate that paper to allow my colors to blend more easily. And then I'm going to go in with my darker and my medium colors to try and create some dimension on my umbrella. So I like to put the darker color around the outside edge as well as kind of against the main image, which is the girl. And then I like to use my medium and my lighter color to blend that color out towards the outside edge. Now, while I already have my blues out, I'm also going to color in her pants, which I'm going to make look like blue jeans. So I'm going to do the same process and start with my lightest color first, go in with my dark and medium, and then blend all of those colors together. Now, since I'm challenging myself to only use the primary colors in the design, I have a very limited color palette. So I have to kind of figure out exactly what I want to be all of the different colors, since we're only going to be incorporating 3 colors on this entire design. I decided to color her rain jacket and her rain boots both in the yellows since I kind of associate yellow with rain gear. And then I'm going to save the red color for the rest of the umbrella. Now I would normally color this with all sorts of colors. I love rainbow colors on everything. So this was definitely a challenge for me, but I really loved the overall finished design once I was done. So I definitely encourage you to give it a try even if you're not really sure and you don't think it's something you're going to like. Since I already have my yellow colors out, I'm going to also color in the sun and the little duck images. I'm only going to end up using one of the ducks in the finished card, but I always prefer to stamp extra and have more than I need than have not enough and have to restamp and recolor once I start to assemble the card. And now to finish off my coloring, I'm going in with my red. And for my reds, I chose to use a more cool toned red. So this has kind of like a purplish blue undertone rather than warm reds, which has a more of an orange undertone. I definitely prefer cool tones over warm tones, so if given the option, that will always be my first choice. So now once again, I'm going to go in, and for the reds, I ended up only using 2 colors. I didn't want to have too dark of a red color on the umbrella, so I decided to just use 2 colors to do my shading and create that dimension on the umbrella. And then the last thing I'm going to do to finish my image is I'm going to go in with my darkest blue color and I'm going to color in the little handle on her umbrella. And I'm also going to color in the little hair ties in her hair with that blue color. And then that is going to finish the coloring on these images. So I can go ahead and take the coordinating dies and die cut all of these so that we have them ready for our design. I did end up coloring the little duck's beaks and feet off camera. I forgot that I hadn't colored those. So in this instance, I did use a warm red. I used R14 to color those in so that they kind of look like orange, but I was staying true to the primary colors. So now we're going to work on our background panel here. So I have a bunch of Post-it tape that I'm adding to my panel, and I'm just using the edge of the panel as a guide for where I'm going to line this up. And this is going to create a rectangle in the middle of the cardstock panel. This currently measures 4¼ by 5½ inches, but we are going to trim it down 1/4 inch once we're finished so that we can add it to our card base and see some of that card base peeking around the outside edge. So what I'm doing now is I'm just adding the cloud detail with my ink here. I have Broken China Distress ink, and I'm just kind of adding the cloud detail in the whole entire rectangle panel. And this is going to kind of be the backdrop for our images, and we're going to add them directly on top of this once we have all of our inking done. Once I'm done adding all of the clouds, I'm going to take my ink blending tool and I'm going to very lightly go around the edge of the rectangle that we've created. And what I'm doing is I'm just adding a tiny bit of ink so that we really give this a defined edge. I want to really be able to see that rectangle, and I don't want it to fade off into the white cardstock on the back of the panel. So once I have that done, we can go ahead and do the magic here, which is removing the tape. And it leaves us with this really great cloud image that we can use as the backdrop for the stamped images that we've created. And since we inked all of our clouds in blue, we are staying with our primary color palette. So we're not cheating, we're not adding any new colors. We just use the blue in the background as well as on our image. So now it's time for our sentiment. I ended up stamping a larger, longer sentiment and decided it was a little bit too big. So I decided to swap it out for this one here, which says Hello Sunshine. And these sentiments are from the Aim for the Clouds stamp set. I love the stamp set. It has some really cute weather-related sentiments. And they're nice and small so they fit on this banner, which is one of my all-time favorites. This is from the Hearts in a Row Horizontal Dynamics, and I love it for sentiments. When I added the sentiment banner, I kind of tucked one of her boots underneath of it and let the other one kind of go over top. I love how it kind of worked out in the design. And then I'm adding the rest of the little details onto the scene. So I have two of the clouds with the sun, and the sun I added with some foam adhesive. And then I'm going to add this little duck here, kind of overlapping the sentiment strip, and that is going to finish our design. I already did trim this down like I mentioned before, so now we're going to add it to a yellow card base, and you can see a little bit of a border of that yellow kind of peeking around, and that is going to finish our card. I did decide I wanted to add a little bit of detail and dimension to this though, so I decided to add a little bit of glitter first to the sun, and I'm using my Nuvo glitter pen to do that, and I'm also adding it to the little pockets as well as the little duck's beak. And then I'm going to add a little bit of gloss and shine by using the Nuvo Crystal Glaze and putting that on the face of my sun, on the pockets on her rain jacket, and then also on the little duck's beak. So all of the areas that I had already put the little bit of glitter. And then to finish this one off, I'm just adding a few of the little Studio Katya raindrops underneath the cloud and one above the umbrella, and this card is done. And we have a completed scene here that only has 3 colors in the whole entire scene. But when you look at it, you kind of don't even notice. It looks really great and everything matches nicely. Now, before I go today, I also wanted to show you a second card that I created. And I'm not going to show the whole creation process of this card, but I wanted to show another way that you can incorporate primary colors into a design. I'm using the same Rain or Shine stamp set, and I stamped out a bunch of the suns, and I colored them all in with the exact same colors that I had used on the original image that we colored. And I want to create a grid design on my card to feature all of these different sun images, so I'm using the Stitch Collage Dynamics. And what I did is I die cut it from a piece of white cardstock, and I'm using the outer frame piece as a template to place all of the little stitch squares. I don't want to actually use the frame part, I just want to have all of the squares, and I want to have all of them lifted off of the card with dimension. So I have that frame temporarily in place there with some post-it tape, and I'm putting foam adhesive on the back of each of the squares, and I'm adding them to the openings where they came from. Now for the sentiment, I'm using the Full of Sunshine stamp set, and I stamped the word sunshine in yellow ink in the back, and then I stamped the You Are My Sunshine over top with black licorice dye ink. I'm going to position that one into that opening where it came from, and then I'm going to very carefully remove the frame that we have underneath of these. Now this was never adhered down, it's just kind of stuck on there from all of the panels being adhered over top, but you can very carefully remove that and you're left with all of the stitched squares, and they all have dimension, so I really love the look of that. Once I had the grid created, I just added all of the little suns to each of those squares, and then I finished it off by putting some glitter on the 3 yellow suns, and then I added the finished panel to a yellow card base. So this is just another way to use the primary colors in a fun design. You get all of these different images, so even though there is technically no red and blue suns, it's just a fun way to use that color palette. So that finishes our lesson on primary colors, and you can see I was easily able to achieve that fun geometric sun design as well as the full scene that we colored. So now I'm challenging you to use primary colors for your homework for today's class. So go ahead and visit the video description down below for all of the details as well as all of the giveaways available during all week of summer school. And make sure to head over to the MFT blog, which is also linked below, for your chance to win the various giveaways and enter your card for today's homework. Thanks so much for joining me, and we will see you tomorrow for more summer school fun.